You know, I always thought anonymity was my shield, my survival skill, really. For 8 years after leaving the service, I worked hard to become invisible. I was Jake Rourke, the janitor, just a ghost pushing a mop through the sterile, billion-dollar hallways of Ethel Analytics, making sure my daughter, Lily, had a soft place to land every single night. I thought that was my mission, the only one that mattered anymore, and frankly, I was damn good at it. And then there was Sylvia Vance, the CEO, the name the business rags had rightfully branded the titanium queen of Silicon Valley. She was built of cold, hard brilliance and zero sentimentality, a woman who saw vulnerability as a balance sheet liability. I'd seen her maybe 100 times, always through the reflection in the highly polished marble floor I was cleaning. Copper hair pulled back tight, striding like she owned the air she breathed, which, in a lot of ways, she did. She looked untouchable, like a fortress, but that armor cracked one Friday night, right there in the executive parking garage. I was just finishing up, wiping down a coffee spill by the east exit, when that black Escalade skidded to a stop, and everything went hot. 3 masked guys, moving like real contractors, not just some desperate street thugs. They had Sylvia yanked out of the back seat and pinned against the concrete column, before her driver could even drop his phone. 12 million or she dies, the leader barked, pushing a Glock right up against her temple. And that was it. The invisible man's code was broken. I saw Lily's face in my head, but I also saw something else. Sylvia Vance wasn't screaming or pleading. She was calculating. She was furious. She looked like a teammate who'd been ambushed, and that look, it flipped a switch I'd buried years ago. The mop handle hit the floor, and you can believe I didn't make a sound. My training, the old regiment muscle memory, it took over. No thought, just fluid motion. A sweeping low kick, a wrist lock, an elbow strike, all in less time than it takes to check your phone. The first 2 guys were down before they knew which way the shadow came from. The third, the leader, tried to spin and fire, but my hand was already on his wrist, twisting his weapon down and away, a disarming technique they teach only to the elite, the ones who truly understand economy of motion. It was clean. It was over. When the emergency lights flickered back on, I was standing over 3 unconscious guys, still breathing hard, but I was Jake the janitor again. I grabbed my mop, my eyes downcast, already regretting everything. Sylvia Vance, the titanium queen. She was staring at me like she'd just witnessed the laws of physics break. Her face was pale, but her voice was steel. "Who are you?" "Just the janitor, ma'am," I mumbled, trying to blend back into the beige paint. But she wasn't having it. "No," she cut in, her eyes locking onto mine. "You are not." That look she gave me, it was assessing, not pitying, and it made my skin crawl. "With all due respect, Miss Vance," I told her, my voice quiet but firm, "it's better for both of us if I am." And then I slipped away as the real security teams finally showed up. I felt that heat from the past life lingering on my skin, and all I could think about was getting home to Lily and those pancakes I'd promised her. But Sylvia Vance, she didn't get to be a billionaire by letting mysteries walk away. The very next morning, she was in the security office, freezing the frame on the surveillance footage, watching my shadow move. "Not just military," she murmured to her head of security, Marcus, a big, nervous guy who hated me immediately. "Special operations. That's a textbook Jensen technique." And we had him cleaning toilets. She didn't stop there. She didn't let up. She pulled every string, every government favor, every Dodd contact she had, until the whole ghost file on Captain Jake Rourke, hostage rescue specialist, was sitting on her desk. She found out about my wife, Rebecca, my resignation, and the sudden, complete disappearance of a man the Pentagon had marked for the top brass. Riley was one of our best, an old general confirmed to her. He saved 30 for civilians without firing a shot. A strategic genius, but his wife got sick. He just vanished. I knew she'd come for me. It was inevitable. I was loading up my rusty pickup in the employee lot that evening when her own sedan, a modest one, not the usual limousine, pulled up beside me. She got out, looking less like a CEO in jeans and a simple jacket. "Mr. Rourke," she said, calm and direct, or should I say, Captain Rourke. I just tightened my jaw. not giving her an inch. "I'm just a janitor now," I repeated. "A janitor who saved my life using skills the government paid millions to teach him," she retorted. She cut right to the chase, no small talk. She offered me the job, head of personal security, a salary that could fund Lily's entire college education right then and there. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Not interested." I saw the shock in her face. This woman was used to everyone having a price, everyone eventually bending. I knew I had to tell her the truth, the only thing that mattered. "Those skills came with a cost, Ms. Vance," I said, my voice finally cracking with the raw emotion I usually hid. "I have a daughter who needs stability, not a father who attracts danger, disappears on classified missions, or makes powerful enemies." She tried again, pushing the money, the opportunity, the ego boost. "You're hiding," she insisted, "wasting your potential." I shook my head, my eyes burning. "There's nothing wasted," I told her, maybe for myself more than for her, about keeping my promise to my daughter, and I drove away, leaving the Titanium Queen alone. Staring at the dust my pickup kicked up, I figured that was the end of it, she'd move on. But Sylvia Vance wasn't used to losing. A few days later, a security assessment showed up on my desk, detailing 12 critical, minute-by-minute vulnerabilities in Ethel's protocols. And it was brilliant. "Fix these," the unsigned note simply read. "Consider it my professional courtesy." I knew it was her, a chess move, challenging me at my own game, and that's when she made her real move. I didn't know it yet, but she'd already pulled my file again, focusing now on Lily, her school, her schedule, her small struggles like that darn solar system project she couldn't get to hang right. But there was another, deeper detail she found, the one that truly changed everything. The Willow Creek Flats, our building, the only affordable place we could find, was scheduled for demolition. It was being torn down to make way for her luxury condos, signed off by her own real estate venture, Vance Holdings. I was about to lose my home because of her, and she knew it. She sat in her pristine office, staring at that demolition brief, an unfamiliar feeling stirring a tiny, deep discomfort. These weren't just abstract tenants. This was Lily, the little girl whose father just saved her life. The cold, ruthless pragmatism she'd always embraced. It felt suddenly hollow. The Titanium Queen's armor was about to crack wide open, but she chose to strike where she knew I was weakest, through a 7-year-old girl and a collapsing cardboard Jupiter. That was the setup for the next act, the one where our two broken worlds finally collided. The next Saturday, she just showed up at the Willow Creek Flats. She found our apartment, which was small, water-stained ceiling, mismatched furniture, but it was ours. The walls were covered with Lily's brightly framed artwork, and there was that one faded photo of me, Lily, and Rebecca always there, always central. I opened the door on the chain, instantly alert, that old regiment instinct kicking in hard. "How did you find where I live?" I demanded, my voice low and dangerous. She just looked at me, dressed down but still regal. "I'm a CEO, Mr. Rourke. Information is my business." But there was an uncertainty in her eyes that was new, something I hadn't seen before. She told me she'd heard Lily was struggling with a science project, and since she had an engineering background, she thought she could help. It was such a ridiculous lie, so transparent, but before I could send her packing, Lily, God bless her, peeked around my hip. "Is she here to help with my planets?" she whispered, her eyes wide with hope. Mine keep falling off, and that was the end of that argument. When Sylvia Vance knelt down to Lily's level, it was like the air pressure in the room shifted. She was graceful, yes, but for the first time, she looked vulnerable, human. For 3 hours, the Titanium Queen taught my 7-year-old about gravitational fields and weight distribution, not with corporate jargon, but with patience and a genuine smile. I watched her, making our meager lunch the careful rationing you do when you live on minimum wage, and I noticed her eyes lingering. She wasn't pitying us. She was cataloging, understanding our life through its small, honest signals. Then Lily, with that brutal honesty only a 7-year-old possesses, turned to Sylvia. "Why do you live in a big building all alone?" Sylvia froze. How do you know I live alone? Dad says people's eyes tell stories. Lily explained simply. Yours look like his did after Mommy went to heaven. I jumped in, but Sylvia shook her head. It's all right, Jake. And then she confessed to Lily, softly, sometimes it is lonely. But I have my company. It's like a different kind of family. Do they make you birthday cakes? Lily pressed. When Sylvia said, not exactly, Lily delivered the final verdict with absolute certainty. Then it's not really like family. When she was leaving, and the completed solar system model was perfectly balanced and spinning, I walked her out. I brought up the demolition, just to watch her flinch. Yes, I said, I know who's displacing 30 families for luxury condos. The company behind it. She didn't meet my eyes. She just said, I came to tell you I've halted the project. The building will be renovated instead. Current residents can stay. I just stared at her. Why business decision? Tax advantages? She didn't answer that. She just gave me a look that said, it's complicated. It wasn't pity. It was a choice. That night, she didn't just see buildings anymore. She saw homes. The next week, I took the job as Special Projects Director. With my own conditions. Lily first, no late nights unless necessary, and boundaries. Is there a personal relationship, Mr. Rourke? She'd asked, a flicker of emotion in her eye. There could be, I'd admitted. That's why we need boundaries. For weeks, we worked closely. She learned I spoke 4 languages and played master-level chess. I learned she climbed mountains, taught herself code at 13, and anonymously funded children's hospitals. One evening, after I observed she didn't publicize her philanthropy, she simply said, publicity creates expectations. Expectations create limitations. I prefer freedom. Is that why you live alone? Freedom. I asked. She paused the security footage she was reviewing. I live alone because relationships require vulnerability. Vulnerability creates weakness. I wasn't built for weakness. Neither was I said quietly, looking at her. Until Lily. But the real test, the crisis point that forces you to choose between your core beliefs. The mighty Sylvia Vance. Grayson sneered, gun trained on her. Come to save some janitor's brat. She held her ground. I transferred 10 million. You'll get the rest when Lily's safe. But I'm offering you a way out, she said calmly, leveraging the negotiation techniques I'd taught her a jet. Disappearance protocols, a clean escape, while she kept him engaged. I slipped through the shadows, found Lily with a guard, and secured her. Package secured, I whispered into the earpiece. Sylvia's posture changed instantly. It's over, Julian, she declared. Grayson lunged, but Sylvia sidestepped with a move I'd taught her months ago. As he stumbled, our security detail stormed in. Outside, Lily ran to me, but then, surprisingly, she extended her arms to Sylvia too. The 3 of us embraced, an unlikely family forged in crisis. Later, as Lily slept, we stood in the living room. You risked everything, I said quietly. Why? Her composure finally broke. Because for the first time in my life, she confessed, her voice thick with emotion. Something matters more than success or control. You and Lily, you've become my family. I couldn't bear to lose that. I took her hand. I spent years hiding who I was, thinking invisibility meant safety. But now, I looked at her, truly seen by this incredible woman. Now I understand that being seen, truly seen by the right person, is the greatest security of all. 6 months later, Sylvia and I were standing in the elementary school gym for Lily's science fair. Her project, Structural Integrity in Emergency Shelters, was a winner. My dad taught me that sometimes buildings fall down, Lily explained to the audience, pointing to her model, but with the right support, they can stand stronger than before. Sylvia squeezed my hand. We both recognized the metaphor. Sylvia had pulled strings at the Pentagon. My full, honorable service record was amended, and my long overdue commendations were approved. I became the director of the Second Chance Initiative at Ethel, retraining veterans like me for cybersecurity, leveraging skills that would have otherwise gone to waste. Then, on Lily's 8th birthday, Sylvia gave her a gift, adoption papers, carefully framed beside a photo of the 3 of us camping. So you can be my official mom, Lily told her excited friends. But she already was anyway. We were sitting on the balcony that night, Lily nestled between us, the city lights below looking less like assets and more like homes. Sylvia touched the simple engagement band I'd designed for her. It had a small piece of metal from my military tags and a tiny stone from Rebecca's original ring. I never thought I'd have this at all, Sylvia whispered. Lily stirred and asked for the story again. The true one, where Dad was a superhero in disguise. I wasn't a superhero, honey, I chuckled. You saved Victoria from the bad guys. And then, Sylvia finished, brushing Lily's hair. Your dad and you saved me from something much worse, believing that success meant being alone. That power meant not needing anyone. You taught me that real strength comes from connection, not isolation. We both found our way back, but on a different battlefield. She, from the untouchable queen to a woman who embraced courage. Me, from the invisible man to someone who finally stood proudly in his truth. So, that's my story. It's messy, it's complicated, and it started with a kidnapping and a mop. My life changed forever because one CEO was brave enough to give up control, and one janitor was brave enough to stop hiding. Now, I want to hear from you. What are the walls you've built to protect yourself? And what unexpected crisis finally forced you to let someone in? Drop your story in the comments below. Like this video, subscribe for more stories of second chances, and tell me, was Sylvia right to put herself at risk? Or should she have trusted the expert and stayed out of the warehouse? Let's talk about it.